in the third lesson of data visualization for bar charts and heat maps, slightly more advanced than line charts. So let's scoot over here to this notebook that I've copied into my own Kaggle account, which you can do the same to be able to follow along and execute the code line by line or cell by cell. This series of notebooks has been developed really starting from scratch. So you learn also a little bit of Python and Pandas initially. So there's a lot of overlap between some of what we've learned so far and what you've seen in previous sets of lessons. So once again, we're going to set up the notebook. There is the Pandas, Matplotlib, and Seaborn libraries that we'll be using once again. This time there's a data set that is from the US Department of Transportation that is tracking flight delays from airplanes, which in the United States, it's a pretty common thing is to have your flight delayed. And so you can see some of the data here. It gives you a snapshot even of an Excel spreadsheet, which is nice to get a sense of what is in the data set. You have the airline codes and then basically how late on average that they roughly were for those individual months. We go ahead and load the data once again, pretty straightforward. .read CSV is our main tool there. And we look and check out the data set itself. Here we didn't use .head, so we got basically the first 12 rows and all the different airline abbreviations here. And they're essentially their average minutes late per month. So to make a bar chart, there's a chunk of code here. It's about 4 lines of code with comments in between to explain what each of these lines is doing. Once again, we're using matplotlib, the .figure function of matplotlib to first set the figure size. We're then adding a title to that figure. We use Seaborn, so sns.barplot. We use the barplot function. We specify that the x-axis we would like to be the column of the data frame called .index, or it's not a name to it, but it's the .index. So it's the month of the year. And for the y-axis, we're going to pull out one of the columns, NK, which is Spirit Airlines, and also go ahead and plot the Y label. And so we've done that. I've executed that line of code. Here you can see for Spirit Airlines across the 12 months, the average delay. This tutorial is really nice. It goes into a lot of detail to explain exactly how that works and why each of those notations is being used for those attributes within those functions. You can go ahead and make more advanced bar plots using Seaborn as well. Next, we want to learn about heat maps. Heat maps are really useful visualization patterns, 2-dimensional visualization patterns that allow us to see 2 dimensions in terms of the spatial dimensions, but then you have a 3rd dimension for color, which basically shows the values essentially. So we'll show you what we mean here in a second. Here we do the same thing, set the figure size, set the title. We use .heatmap. We specify the data frame, flight data. So it's going to use the index. If we look down here at the end result, the index of the month on the y-axis and the airline on the x-axis. So this gives us 2 dimensions of data there. And then the 3rd dimension is the color palette. And over here on the right, you can see this color palette range all the way from -5 to 35. And you can get a sense of across the course of the year where the patterns are on the vertical axis, where the patterns of more delay is occurring. And it looks like on average, you have this kind of lighter areas here in the middle in the earlier part of the year, and then clustered amongst these airlines, which I'm not familiar with all the airline codes, but I'm guessing that, yeah, you have United Airlines. I would have guessed that would have a lot more delay. That's in my opinion, my personal experience. Anyway, the point is you can see this, and here there's the most drastic airline average delay for the month of June for Spirit Airlines. So once again, it goes through the individual information about how this is created in Seaborn and what these attributes mean. And so you can learn about that. And then of course there's a coding exercise which you can use to solidify your understanding of these 2 chart types.